Imagine if I told you that the Dallas Cowboys dynasty of the 1990s almost never happened. No 3 Super Bowls, no NFL domination, no legendary dynasty. And it all comes down to one decision, one trade. One moment that completely changed the future of the Dallas Cowboys forever. Today, we're exploring the biggest what if in Cowboys history. What if the Cowboys never traded Herschel Walker? And trust me, by the end of this story, you'll realize just how close Dallas came to a completely different future. It's 1989. The Cowboys are a disaster. They've just finished one of the worst seasons in franchise history. Fans are frustrated, the roster is old, the future looks bleak. Meanwhile, a new owner named Jerry Jones has just bought the team. He brings in a young college coach named Jimmy Johnson, and together, they're about to make a decision that shocks the entire NFL. At the time, Herschel Walker wasn't just another player. He was the Cowboys' biggest star, the face of the franchise, the one player fans believed could help turn things around. Trading him seemed insane. But Jimmy Johnson saw something nobody else saw. He knew Dallas wasn't one player away from competing. The Cowboys needed an entire rebuild. So instead of trying to save the present, Johnson decided to gamble on the future. And what happened next would change NFL history forever. On October 12, 1989, the Cowboys traded Herschel Walker to the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings believed Walker was the final piece they needed to win a Super Bowl. They were all in, and they paid a massive price: players, draft picks, future draft picks, more draft picks, and then even more draft picks. At the time, many people thought Minnesota had won the trade. After all, they got the superstar. Dallas got uncertainty. But Jimmy Johnson had a secret plan, and it was brilliant. He structured the deal so that if Minnesota released certain players, Dallas would receive even more draft picks. The Vikings eventually released those players. And suddenly, the Cowboys found themselves sitting on a mountain of draft capital. What happened next would create a dynasty. Those draft assets helped Dallas acquire the foundation of one of the greatest teams ever assembled. Future stars, future Pro Bowlers, future champions, players who would become household names. The Cowboys weren't just rebuilding, they were constructing a football empire. Within a few short years, Dallas transformed from one of the NFL's worst teams into its most feared powerhouse. Then came the championship Super Bowl 23, championship Super Bowl 23, another championship Super Bowl XX, a third championship, 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, one of the greatest dynasties football has ever seen. And it all traces back to one trade. But here's where things get interesting. What if that trade never happened? Let's imagine an alternate universe. The Cowboys keep Herschel Walker. Fans are happy, the star player stays, the headlines are positive. But there's a problem. Dallas never receives the mountain of draft picks. They don't have the resources to completely rebuild the roster. They don't have the flexibility to load the team with young talent. Instead of building an entire championship core, they're trying to win with a roster that wasn't ready. Maybe they improve slightly. Maybe they become respectable. But do they become a dynasty? Probably not. And that's where the true what if begins. Because keeping Walker may have actually hurt the Cowboys in the long run. The move that would have looked popular in 1989 might have prevented everything that followed. Think about that for a second. The most important move in Cowboys history wasn't drafting a superstar. It wasn't winning a Super Bowl. It wasn't hiring a coach. It was trading away their biggest star. That's the irony. Sometimes greatness requires sacrifice. Sometimes the move that looks terrible in the moment becomes legendary years later. And that's exactly what happened here. While Vikings fans dreamed of championships, Dallas was quietly building a monster. The Vikings never reached the Super Bowl with Walker. The Cowboys built a dynasty. One franchise got a star, the other got a future even today. NFL executives study this trade. Many consider it the greatest trade in league history, not because of what Dallas gave away, but because of what they received. A blueprint for building a champion. A lesson in patience, a reminder that sometimes the smartest move isn't the popular move. It's the bold move, the risky move, the move nobody understands until years later. So when we ask what the biggest what if in Cowboys history is, the answer isn't complicated. What if Herschel Walker never got traded? Maybe there are no 3 Super Bowls. Maybe there's no dynasty. Maybe the Cowboys never become the dominant force of the 1990s. Maybe the entire history of the NFL changes. One trade, one decision, one moment, and an entirely different future hanging in the balance. That's why the Herschel Walker trade isn't just the biggest what-if in Cowboys history. It may be the biggest what-if in NFL history. And that's what makes this story unforgettable. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think the Cowboys still become a dynasty if Herschel Walker never gets traded? I'd love to hear your thoughts.